Hey horror fans, once again it is me, the Horror Miser Monty G. Yes, it's time to continue my Resident Evil series as we now will cover Resident Evil Apocalypse. Yes. Now, Resident Evil Apocalypse is a 2004 action horror movie. It was directed by Alexander Witt. It was written by Paul W.S. Anderson. And yes, this is based upon the Resident Evil video game from Capcom. It continues the Resident Evil series as a first one made a lot of money, and obviously we had to get a sequel, but can they come up with something better? The first one was a little not good. We'll see what I have to say about Resident Evil Apocalypse. Now, this film, we have returning Mila Jovovich as Alice, Sienna Guillory as Jill Valentine, and Odette Vieira as Carlos Ventura. Continuing from the first film, Alice wakes up in a Raccoon City hospital where the city is now overrun by zombies. Alice must now make it out of the city before a nuclear bomb is dropped on the city, destroying everything in sight. And that's basically what this movie is about. Now, no one should be surprised that a sequel is made for this series. I mean, despite getting negative reviews, it got hammered by the critics. The film, Resident Evil, made $103 million from a $33 million budget. And I'm pretty sure everyone from, I think, Screen Gems was the one that bought the rights, along with Constantine Films and Paul W.S. Anderson, who wrote, I think he wrote all the screenplays for the Resident Evil film series. Said, yeah, let's go on ahead and let's greenlight and just get another one in the bag. Now, production for Resident Evil Apocalypse began in 2003 with Paul W.S. Anderson returning as screenwriter, and Alexander Witt will be brought in as the director, which would be his debut as a director. Now, this film also received negative reviews. It also did well in the box office too, actually making over $129 million from a $45 million budget. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this film was an improvement over the first movie. Now, I believe this was due to the direction of Alexander DeWitt, as the action scenes were tighter, the monsters were more frightening, and the movie did look scary. So, I gotta give Alexander DeWitt about how the movie looks. Now, Mila Jovovich, she returns as Alice, who after escaping Raccoon City Hospital finds that the city has been ravaged by zombies as the T-virus has spread across the city. We learn that in the beginning of the movie when the scientists, after they take Alice and Matt from the first movie, and we find out that that they decided to go into the hive because they wanted to know what happened down there. Unfortunately, by the time they get down to the hive, a whole mother monsters escape, the virus escapes into the city, and everyone becomes a zombie. Now, for this film, they use characters that we saw in Resident Evil 3. Joining Alice in this film are, like I said, from Resident Evil 3 game, Stardust officers Jill Valentine and Umbrella soldier Carlos Olivier. Now, of course, let's not forget the monster of the game, Nemesis. Now, as the city falls apart from the zombie outbreak, Jill leads a ragtag team of survivors trying to get out the city. That's basically what I did enjoy this film. It's nothing different than what we've seen in zombie pictures before. It's just your basic zombie movie, which I'll explain later. Now, as I stated before, this movie plays like the zombie films we've seen before in this subgenre. We have survivors trying to escape the city, bad guys, or this one, bad corporate executives taking advantage of the situation for their own nefarious needs, and soldiers trying their best to fight off the zombies and the monsters. That's basically what this movie is. It's nothing more and nothing less. Now, one of the things I did like about this film is Alice herself. We get a more complete character here in this one as we did in the first one. She's more of a badass in this one thanks to the experiments Umbrella has done to her. We see that in the movie. She's more confident in this one, and she's still caring as well. So you got to give Mila Jovovich a plus for how good she does do in this film, despite the bad writing and the bad dialogue. She wants to make sure that everyone survives this time, as opposed to everyone dying like Rain did in the first movie. Now, it was nice seeing them add game favorite Jill Valentine in this one. Now, my guess is that people, mainly fans of the game, such as myself, complained that no character at all from the first movie were in... excuse me a second here. My guess is that people complained that no characters from the game were in the first movie. So they decided to add Jill in this one right there. They probably said, oh, we're getting too many complaints from the fans. We better add some characters from the game series to this one. So they decided to add Jill and Carlos in this one, and decided to obviously add Nemesis as well. Now, Sienna Gilroy plays Jill straight up. Probably she's a no-nonsense cop who can kick ass. But what I like what she doesn't take over the scene that she shared with Jovovich, because she knows that Jovovich is the main star, so she doesn't take over the scenes at all. I thought they did very well together. Veteran actor Oded Fier is decent as Carlos. He's a good soldier who is just following orders. He tries his best to make sure that the fellow soldiers survive this nightmare that they've been dropped into. You know, just like what we see in the game, that's what he is. He doesn't care about Umbrella and their responsibilities that they might have caused the accident. Hey, look, I'm just here to follow orders, do my job, and save civilians. And of course, we have comedian Mike Epps in this film, and he's funny as comic relief L.J. Wade. He has a very funny encounter with Nemesis too, which I thought was pretty funny, typical of Mike Epps. Now, one of the good things I thought they decided to do, which I'm surprised they didn't do in the first ones, they had to have more monsters. Is one of the things that makes Resident Evil such a great game is all the bio monsters that they have in the game series, and they decided to add the popular lickers from the game as they do a lot of damage. Now, I just wish the filmmakers would have used more practical effects instead of the CGI, because they don't look frightening. I mean, they look frightening enough, but you can tell that they're not real, just CGI. And I wanted them to do some more damage, because that's what the lickers are. They can do a lot of damage. But at least they had them in there, and they made the film, like I said, a little more scarier than the first one. Now let's talk about Nemesis, the main creature from the game. And I did like his design because it does look the same as it does in the game, which I'm glad that they decided not to make any changes. Hey, I even got goosebumps when he says his favorite catchphrase too in the movie. Stars. However, I did expect the filmmakers to use the creature more in the film than what they did. Yes, he looks frightening, he looks menacing, but he's not the threat that he should be. You're talking about one of the main creatures in video games and one of the main creatures known in the Resident Evil series, and I thought that he should have been more frightening, more dangerous, more of a threat, that he could actually kill some of the people in the movie. No, right, all he does is just roar all the time. He only says stars once, and that's not enough. I expected him to use this creature more than what they did. The main problem with this film is once again the script written by Anderson. Much like the first one, it's filled with cliche moments and bad dialogue. There are moments where you just shake your head when people do bad stuff, and it's mainly just because of how it's written. It has nothing to do with anything else. You can see why the critics didn't like this one. If it weren't for the acting by Jovovich and the rest of the cast, this would be a very terrible movie. I don't understand Anderson's way of writing, but he's not a good writer. They should have got somebody else to write these stories. At least Witt does a good job on how the movie looks. He gives Raccoon a very dreadful look. Like the city is dying, it's decaying, it's gray, it's ugly. I like the colors that he uses, some of the dark colors he uses. Especially in the beginning of the Hive. He doesn't show the creatures, but you can tell that something bad is going to happen to the scientists in the beginning of the movie. I like the opening scene when we saw in the first movie when Alice comes out of the hospital and we see how the city is destroyed and how barren it looks. Kind of reminded me how the game looks, and I thought that was a good way too. And I like some of the other action scenes that he does as well. There are no pacing issues in this movie, so it doesn't drag what would make a 93-minute film look like a 3-hour one. And I like the action scenes, especially some of the fight scenes, like in the church, when they have them find the liquors, and the fight scene involving Alice and Nemesis. So I do give Witt credit for how the film looks, the pacing, how the film is structured. And like I said before, he did a good job as a first-time director. So thanks for some nice direction from Witt, some decent acting from Jovovich, some nice action scenes, nice looking zombies, lickers, and Nemesis was I like the design of Nemesis. This was an improvement from the first film. I just wish Anderson would stop writing, but as we all know, that didn't happen throughout the series. It's just for some reason his writing style is just bleh, the most. As far as a horror movie is concerned, like I said, it's a vast improvement over the first one. Like I said, I just wish they would have used more practical effects instead of the CGI. The zombies look pretty good. There's not a lot of gore in this one as well, if you're expecting the gore. We do have the zombie dogs that are returned this one. They look good as well. But like I said, if you're looking for a gore fest, this is not your movie because unlike other zombie films, this one does not have a gore fest. So, I am going to give Resident Evil Apocalypse 2.5 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. 2.5 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. Like I said, a somewhat improvement over the first one. Just could have been a little bit better if they had some more blood. So, my horror fans, what do you think about Resident Evil Apocalypse? Did you enjoy it? Did you think this was a vast improvement over the first one? Or were you disappointed and the series just fell apart even since the first one? Once again, leave your comments on your comment section below and tell me what you thought about Resident Evil Apocalypse. So, that's my video for the day, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please like and share it. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put up new videos such as this one. Also, all my social media links will be in the description box below as well. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G. And always remember, horror rules. I'll see you in my next video. I'm out, and please stay safe out there.
Stars.